Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teenaccounts.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to be talking about a common issue that I hear, which is that men are competing with the kids for their wife's attention. And of course, this only happens in situations where the man is the pursuing or preoccupied partner and the woman is the more avoidant partner, as you can guess. And we will get into this and why it's never going to work well and what to do instead. As soon as I tell you to subscribe, my most recent subscriber episode was There's a Time and a Place for Romance, and you can't be acting romantic all the time. You know, even though you think romance is good, you may be jumping the shark, and it may be unreasonable. And if you want to know if you're reasonable or not in your romantic expectations, please do subscribe to hear that, as well as about 218 other subscriber-only episodes. And also, if you want more interaction than just this unidirectional podcast, please join my secret Facebook group, which is always linked in the episode description. I interact in there. It's about 300 so members, and it's a smart and interactive place. And if you're a woman, you can also join the Midlife Women's group, which is actually a Zoom meeting every other week on Thursdays, and that's great too. All this stuff is in the episode description. Okay, so if you are a guy who is on the more preoccupied attachment side, and I have a lot of different podcasts about preoccupied attachment in men, and this is the one, obviously, where you are preoccupied with the relationship, where you think about it a lot, where you are the pursuing partner. You are the one who wishes you were having more sex, more interaction in general, and that she seemed more interested in you. If you are this guy, then you are at risk of competing with the kids for her attention because you feel that there's a finite amount of attention and she prioritizes the children, and then you start even listening to stuff like my stuff and kind of using it for your own purposes and saying, oh, isn't it good for the kids to see a happy marriage? And yeah, it is good for the kids to see a happy marriage. However, you don't want to make a zero-sum game here for your wife because that goes against all evolution. She's never going to think that hanging out with you is her priority when she has young kids. And then as the kids get older, it's different. She has to get them to their activities. She has to listen to them. They're out of the house most of the day at school. And then they socialize as they get older. And when they become teenagers, then you may think, okay, she's not going to prioritize them, but you would be wrong, right? Because she thinks that they're going to leave the house soon and she wants to get all her time with them that she can. So if you situate yourself in opposition to the children, it's never going to work out because all of her DNA is telling her to prioritize her kids and her genetic material and to take care of them and to make sure that they get into adulthood and that they procreate, and that is her genetic imperative. That's her biological destiny and it's in fact, and I've discussed this often, in terms of the grandmother hypothesis, evolutionarily, the idea is that women live longer than men so that they can help their own children with their children, and they can be an active and engaged grandmother that then gives those kids a better shot at being healthy and growing to adulthood. So, the beat goes on there. And does this mean that she should spend no time with you? No, definitely not. But think about the times that you're asking her to pay attention to you. There's a lot of guys and couples, and this is how it's described and it's factual by both people, nobody's denying it, that during the time that the kids just get home or there's a reunion with the children, that the man is trying to talk to his wife. Don't try to talk to your wife as soon as the kids walk in the door about something important or something where you want her attention to be on you. Obviously, she wants to reunite with the children at the end of the day after their activity, when they get home from the sleepover, when they get home from school, whatever the case may be. Bedtime. Bedtime, she wants to put the kids to sleep. That's normal. Now, if the children are older, they're in your bed all night, I mean, yes, that's something you have to talk about that often relates to anxiety. And if she is anxious, not anxious attachment like the man is in this scenario, but generalized anxiety, if she's an anxious, overprotective parent, then she has a lot of trouble with ever ending bedtime. So yeah, she puts them to sleep, reads them a story if they're little, or talks to them if they're older, and cuddles them, but it never ends. And she ends up being in there literally all night, or until they are deep asleep, at which point she's usually asleep. Or the kid comes into your bed, and these aren't like toddlers, these are big kids. No, I mean, that's obviously going to be related to anxiety, because the child is there 100% of the time, even when they're unconscious. That is related to a difficulty with her separating, with her tolerating any sort of distress from the child. And of course, if the parent can't tolerate any of the child's frustration, then the child will not cultivate any of their own frustration tolerance, because they learn from the parent that they are very fragile. And if, for example, they're bored while they're falling asleep, that's the end of the world. And the parent characterizes it as fear, and that they have to be in the room and all of this stuff. So this is a different idea. And if that relates to your situation, then your partner may be struggling with anxiety related to parenting. And if you get into couples counseling and you bring this stuff up with, a therapist who's a parent, if you're a parent and you're going to be discussing parent issues, go to a therapist who's a parent. I mean, that's just my advice. Do whatever you want, but I mean, if you have a teenager and you're going to send them to a therapist, sure, send them to a young therapist, somebody in their late 20s, sure, fine. But like, if you are a couple that is discussing parenting issues with a therapist who's not a parent, they don't know shit, right? I didn't either before I was a parent. I would say, whoa, why wouldn't you have the energy for date night at the end of the night? Like, just dumb stuff like that. I didn't know anything. I knew what I was trained, and I didn't didn't have any lived experience of being a parent and understanding the exhaustion and the anxiety and how, evolutionarily we are primed to be obsessed with our kids. I didn't have any firsthand experience of that. So it wasn't useful probably for me as a young therapist before I had my own children 15 years ago. I didn't know what I was talking about, right? So I don't think really that if you are a couple who are parents, how do you do it for a couple? One couple is parents. I think it's either way, but whatever. You didn't come here for for a tangent about grammar. The point being, go to a therapist who's a parent. And then if your wife, in fact, is being overly anxious and hovering around the kids all the time, and that's the issue, then the therapist will bring that up. However, there are plenty of guys that are just trying at the wrong times. When is the right time, you may ask? After the kids are in bed. And yes, they need to be in their own bed then, so you have time together. On a date night. Is date night supposed to be every single weekend on Friday night? You got to leave at 6 p.m. so she never gets a Friday night with her kids? Certainly not. That could be monthly when you have little kids. It can start later. It can start at 8 after bedtime. When you're young and your kids are young, then you have energy. As you get older, date night can't really start at 8 in your 40s. You're tired by that. But that doesn't matter anyway, because at that point, kids are old enough to be left alone, and they have their own social lives, and they often have much, much more extensive social lives than either of the parents. And so the whole thing fades away as a problem. When else should you talk? Well, how about during the day when the kids are at school? I understand you're at work, I'm at work, everybody's at work, but people do make time to go to lunch, they go to breakfast. This is the age of telecommuting and flexible schedules. The older you get, the more autonomy you have, the more you can make your own schedule. So getting lunch or breakfast is a great time. Just like I always talk about with sex. A lot of women are not having sex at night because they're exhausted. When do they want to have sex? During the day. And thankfully, with many flexible schedules now, this can happen. Also, if your wife is talking to the child about something important and she feels that this is a meaningful conversation, don't interrupt. There's a lot of guys come in and take over a conversation that their wife is having with the kid. And they do it in some way because they're impatient with how long it's taking, or they want to correct her or just be thought of as the smarter parent. Whatever that is going on, explore it with your own therapist. But this is a common issue that I hear where the guy says oh, she's in this long conversation, so when would I, then do I just not talk to her the whole night? If your wife is in a long, serious conversation with your kids every single night, well, then that is obviously some kind of a problem. But usually when you drill down a little bit, he just doesn't want any of this depth and intensity in her conversation with the children because he's jealous and she doesn't act that engaged with conversations with him. Well, yeah, he's not her child. To some degree, that is to be expected. You're not going to have your kids forever. If they come to you to confide about something, it does feel like a bigger deal than your partner who is an adult, right? On the other hand, people that most struggle with this have avoidant partners, and the partner really is on the low side for how engaged they are in marital discussions. This is when couples counseling really can come to the rescue, and you can, first of all, you could have the damn serious conversations in couples therapy, and you could also brainstorm time for you guys to get close time together that does not have to be in this zero-sum way where the children lose because you win. That's what women really, really don't like, is when they think that the husband is literally competing for limited time and resources with the children in the exact moments that she wants to be most attuned to the children or close to the children. So yes, she is going to cuddle a baby all the time. She's going to cuddle a toddler most of the time, it gets less. And then a 16-year-old, you really don't cuddle anymore, right? So that goes away. But we got, people, guys who are saying all she does is cuddle the kids. She knows that she's not going to cuddle the kids forever. And if you try to sit on the couch, then you can all be in a cuddle puddle, it doesn't have to be that you're trying to kind of drag her away from the kids, which is how it feels to the woman. It feels like she has just this limited amount of time in her life to be with young kids, and the guy is stealing it. And she's going to be very upset, and it's going to lead to later empathic ruptures where she feels like, I didn't get as much time to enjoy being a mother as I could because he was obsessed with me still acting like a wife, to the point that I could not be myself with the children. And I was hiding, hanging out with the children. And women are making up stuff, sitting in the car talking to the kids because they know as soon as they get in to the house, the guy's going to be visibly irritated if she gives the kids more attention than she gives him. And that is a toxic dynamic, a pursuer-distancer dynamic that is specifically around the children. And if any of this resonates with you, y'all should get into couples counseling, because this is the stuff of massive long-term empathic ruptures when she feels like she didn't get to be the kind of mother she wanted during what, in retrospect, feels like a very short time of life, because it is. It's only a few years that you have kids who want to cuddle, really, in one's life. And the idea that the marriage should always be as important as that is not true. As I said in my most recent paid podcast, nothing blooms in all seasons. Sometimes it's time for the children to take center stage, sometimes for the marriage, sometimes for an individual self-growth, sometimes there's an extended family issue, sometimes career, etc., etc. All right, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this and got a new perspective from it, and I will talk to y'all soon. Have a great day, everybody.